If you value hard-earned historical knowledge over modern marketing claims, subscribe now, because this channel exists to test ancient husbandry methods the way our ancestors actually depended on them. Today's guide is not theory, not nostalgia, and not trend following. It is the result of putting one ancient mulch head-to-head against every modern cover I could source, and watching the old method outperform them all in soil protection, moisture control, and long-term fertility. Why ancient farmers obsessed over mulch long before plastic, fabric, or package covers existed. For most of agricultural history, mulch was not optional. It was survival infrastructure. Ancient farmers understood that bare soil was a liability, especially in climates with brutal sun, sudden rain, or seasonal drought. Mulch regulated temperature, slowed evaporation, fed soil life, and protected fragile structure. Unlike modern systems that separate soil feeding from soil covering, historical mulch did both at once, and that integration is what most modern solutions have lost. So, what exactly was this ancient mulch? And, well, why has it faded from our collective memory? The truth is, it was a unique blend, crafted by necessity and tradition, and over time, as farming practices changed, it simply slipped into obscurity. The mulch that really stood out in my trials was, this partially decomposed forest litter mixed together with animal bedding and a bit of ash. It was spread on thick and then just left alone, undisturbed. Now, this wasn't fresh straw, and it certainly wasn't finished compost either. Historical accounts actually call it half-rotted floor sweepings, gathered from barns, forest floors, and the ashes from the hearth. It had everything: fungal threads, broken leaves, little bits of wood, traces of manure and mineral ash. See, modern systems don't use this approach mostly because it's inconsistent and honestly hard to package up and sell. But ancient farmers, well, they prized it because it was a bit like the natural forest floor, where the soil is always rich and never really runs out. Now, let's talk about why, under real conditions, modern mulches just haven't measured up. Plastic sheets, for instance, sure, they kept the weeds down, but they'd overheat the soil and end up killing off all that vital life on the surface. The fabric types, they'd block any organic matter from mixing in and, frankly, needed constant patching. Fresh straw, well, it'd blow away with the wind, get all matted, and actually rob the soil of nitrogen. Bark chips, on the other hand, would keep the soil cool, but they broke down far too slowly and at first would even repel water. Every modern option seemed to fix one issue, only to create two more. The ancient mulch, though, it managed to tackle several problems at once, simply because it was alive with biology, let moisture through, and shielded the soil all at the same time. Now, let's talk about how this ancient mulch actually transforms soil, instead of just, covering it up. Within just a few weeks of application, the soil beneath the ancient mulch darkened, softened, and even developed visible fungal networks. Water infiltration improved straight away, because the mulch absorbed rainwater rather than shedding it off. Temperature swings, well, they reduced dramatically, which meant roots were protected during both the heat and the cold. Over a single season, compacted ground started shifting toward a crumb structure, and all this happened without any mechanical tilling. This isn't just a surface improvement, mind you. It's biological reconstruction, driven from the top down. So, how did historical farmers apply this mulch without any fancy tools or measurements? Well, application was judged by thickness and feel, not by volume. Historical accounts mention laying mulch until the soil beneath could no longer be seen and the surface felt, springy underfoot. In practice today, this means applying about 5 to 10 centimeters across beds or around trees, but always avoiding direct contact with stems. The mulch was usually renewed once or twice a year, typically after harvest or before the seasonal rains, and it was never turned in. Earthworms and fungi, they did all the mixing naturally. If you're wondering how you can reproduce this method using modern materials, here's what you do. To recreate this mulch now, collect leaf litter that's already started breaking down, mix it with used animal bedding or aged manure, and add just a small amount of wood ash for mineral balance. Let it sit in a loose pile for several weeks so microbial activity can stabilize. Then apply it thickly to bare soil, orchards or garden beds, and simply leave it alone. Don't rake it in. Don't water it excessively. Just let rainfall and soil life pull the nutrients downward, naturally. Now, why did this mulch outperform cover crops in some contexts? Well, let's dig into that a bit. Cover crops, you see, require time, seed, and a fair bit of moisture to get themselves established. In soils that are degraded or compacted, they often fail before they can do any good. Ancient mulch, on the other hand, works immediately. It protects the soil the very same day it's applied, feeds the microbes without any competition, and doesn't need to be terminated later on. In historical systems, mulch was often used to rehabilitate land before planting anything at all, creating the sort of conditions where crops could actually survive. So, why should serious survivalists pay attention to this method? Well, let me tell you, it could make all the difference when conditions are tough and every little bit counts. This mulch requires no manufactured inputs, no fuel, and no ongoing purchases. It scales from a single garden bed to entire fields using waste materials most people ignore. It improves soil quietly and continuously, and it leaves no dependency on supply chains. That is why it endured for centuries and, well, why it still works when tested honestly. Why modern agriculture moved away from it despite its effectiveness. The ancient mulch does not fit industrial timelines. It cannot be standardized, branded or sold easily. Its strength lies in local materials and biological variability. As farming shifted toward mechanization and uniformity, this kind of mulch became inconvenient, not ineffective. History did not abandon it because it failed. It abandoned it because it could not be monetized efficiently. If you want more real husbandry knowledge grounded in history, field testing and survival logic, subscribe now and share this with others who still believe soil health can't be rebuilt without modern products. This channel exists to preserve methods that actually worked, and your support keeps that knowledge alive where it belongs.